Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through the industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Ben Mccahill. He's an author, a text expert, and an entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks, KJ. It's a great opportunity. Thank you so much. Great way to start.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to the show, Ben. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from your expertise, will benefit from this discussion that we will be having right now. We'll be talking about artificial intelligence, careers, and the future related to that. Before that, first to understand from you, Ben, a little bit of background. I've talked about you being an author, tech expert, entrepreneur, but to hear from you itself, who is Ben Mccahill? How does he see this artificial intelligence in today's time? What is artificial intelligence? While you talk of authentic intelligence, so let's understand what is authentic intelligence. Then we'll move forward with other questions.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name is Ben. So I've been working since the 80s, really. So I've been through probably 4 major disruptions now. The first one really was, look, I was born a mathematician and an engineer. So that's naturally where I come from. Electronic engineering, computer science, that type of stuff. So in the 80s, we went from... we went from the analog phones through to the digital phones, and it didn't really feel like a huge change, but it was probably the single biggest change, because what that enabled was the next 3 generations. So I look on each generation as like building a new layer on a tower. So the first layer was the digital. The next layer on top of that then was something called ways and the internet. The next layer on top of that was mobile, and the next layer on top of that was the cloud. So there's this tower that's been built up, okay? And as I went through each of these disruptions, as I lived through them as a citizen and as an engineer, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of jobs were kind of destroyed, and then tens of millions of new jobs were created. So the traditional kind of career planning just kind of more and more went out the window. Every new generation of technology that came in 2 times faster or 10 times faster in some cases than the one before. And as people use the technology, that kind of changed the technology. So you could see this now with social media. The more people use it, the more it bends in a particular direction. So I'm happy to talk through all of the technical details of cloud or mobile, or, because I've helped at one stage, the company we were working for, more than 1 in 3 calls on the mobile networks all over the world went through our equipment. So from a technical point of view, I'm happy to talk about it. What I really found interesting, though, was that as you put each layer on top of the next layer, it's like a missile being launched from a missile, being launched from a jet plane. It's just the speed that things change at now is absolutely incredible. So what I decided to do was to think, okay, what's happening next? Get ahead of the ball, AI and what I call authentic intelligence. What I did was I put the 4 layers on top of each other and said, what happened in those 4 layers that was the same and what was different? So it's the old, Jeff Bezos question. Let's focus on what's not going to change. So I'll pause there, KJ, if you've got any kind of questions coming in, or you want to interject or steer me in a direction.
Right. Thanks for that, Ben. I want to understand, where are we going with this speed of, a new development, we can say, new tech that is coming on the back of artificial intelligence. Where is it that we are trying to go? Is it to make us, give us so much of free time, or is it all about business? I want to understand from you from that point of view. A lot of people are worried about career. A lot of people are worried about other aspects. You yourself admit about mental health, which you talk about is heading into a crisis in itself. So I want to understand What is it that we are trying to achieve through it? Where is it we are going with all this understanding of things with regards to artificial intelligence? And if it is all right, why do you call it authentic intelligence? You talk about authentic intelligence in your new book, How to Survive and Stand Out in the Next Crazy Decade. Is it about development then? Is it about our crisis, that new crisis that is developing? Help us understand. There are several things here, but they are so interrelated. I thought, why not ask them together so that you can answer them at your own pace. Help us understand the present and decode a bit of the future so that we can walk much more confidently into the future.
Okay. And these are all, personal opinions. It's I can see. I mean, people's attention is the most valuable resource there is. We're not getting this actual second back. We're being pulled more and more and more into the present moment, and I think attention is getting shorter and shorter and shorter, and people are getting less and less tolerant of time wasting and preambles and so on. I think we're going to go into a black hole on that. I think that the pace of development and the pace of innovation is going to get so fast that attention are going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. So we're just not going to be able to cope. Absolutely not going to be able to cope. Personally, I gave up a year or two ago. That's what kind of led me to write the book. I realized that there is no way I can keep up. So I'm going to have to fall back. I'm going to have to fall back on stuff that I can fundamentally trust. Okay? And that's what I call authentic intelligence. So when I look at the last four waves, when I started in the 80s, I was actually working in New Guinea for a couple of years. I was teaching there. And, a mail could take 3 weeks, 4 weeks round trip. A phone call, a 1 minute phone call was $20 a minute, so you had all the time in the world. And now we have no time in the world. And that's why I think AI is not a choice. We're going to have to fall back into things that we can trust. So one thing I learned about the development of the internet was I used to call it internet acid, because everything that people had been protecting, that they've been keeping private, was dissolved. Entire companies were just broken down. The links between companies were broken down. The links between departments were broken down, just dissolved. And massive companies just disappeared overnight. And that's going to happen again. And on the good side, I suspect in 5 years' time, 90% of the new job opportunities, they just don't exist at the moment. They just don't exist. So that's why I thought, well, look, I can't fight this thing. So I'm a huge sea swimmer. So, when you see something coming, you're not going to outrun it. You just got to dive straight in there. So that to me is, I use the examples of Christopher Columbus and Copernicus. So Christopher Columbus, if you look at the ships, they were smaller than a bus, and they set off from a port knowing that they were going to fall off the end of the world, that there were dragons in the air, that there was genies that were going to get them. But they had one thing. First of all, they had the guts to do it. But they also had the intelligence to rely on navigation. And that's really what I'm at now. That's what I mean by authentic intelligence. You got to know who you are, like who you really are, not who you think you are. Because there's mini me inside. Well, there's actually mini me outside. And then there's infinite me inside. You got to understand and get a feeling for what that's about. That's the first thing. So you got to aviate. Are you on the straight and level? Are you flying upside down? Whatever. You got to get a real feel with all of your senses, not just with thinking. With touch, with feel, because AI is going to absolutely wipe any productivity gains or any productivity goes. It's gone. Just forget it. So what you're going to have is, as an example, like if I have an accident in 3 or 4 or 5 years in the car, my insurance is going to deploy as fast as the airbag, and all of that, they will automatically call the garage, they will automatically reschedule my appointments, yada, 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 yada. And that, no human can get in the way of that. It all has to be automated, and that's fine. That's an example of something good. On the downside, maybe 1 in 5 people in any country is involved indirectly in the insurance industry, whether it's, attestation to say that yes, this person is real, whether it's provenance to say, yeah, actually this is my car and it hasn't been fiddled with, whether it is an event that, if a drone runs into a Tesla, like, what really happened? So all of those things are going to be automated, and anybody that's involved in that industry, I think, is released back in to find out what they really do. So I think from a career point of view, you need to understand who you really are. Do you like being inside or outside? Do you like thinking or doing? Do you like people or things? Do you like creating or innovating? That's what I mean by intelligence. Like, who are you? And once you know who you are, then the rest, the opportunities are going to be absolutely massive. There will be a lot of, I think, the issues that there are at the moment around nationality, around gender, around, I'm not even going to go down the rabbit hole of all of these kind of social do's and don'ts. That's going to get worse. That's nothing compared to what's going to happen, because the very concept of identity, who you are, has been defined by what you do. So when that goes away, who's left? And what I found, and the reason why I did a sprint, I wrote the book in 30 days. It just burst out, because I had no choice. Everything that I thought I'll try and get involved in, AI beat me. Absolutely killed me. Absolutely. So I thought, okay, fine. Let's find out what I can't do. And that's why I actually call it a genie now. I think of it as a kind of a two-way conversation. It's previous generations of technology have swapped what we do. They've made it things faster, cheaper, larger, whatever. This is a merger. Absolutely. People used to say, I think, therefore I am. That's not the case. That's like saying, I walk, therefore I am. I breathe, therefore I am. Whoop-de-doo. Who are you? What have you got? If you work with AI as a kind of a genie to help you with that, not with prompting or something, but genuinely to do stuff, it's going to be great. But people who struggle with who they really are, or letting go what they're not, like, I always use flying. I love flying as well. So it's about aviate. Are you up at level? Navigate. Do you have enough fuel to get where you're going? Where are you going? Why are you going there? And then communicate. So that's what the pilots always do. It's aviate, navigate, communicate. And as long as you have those three things, whatever happens, AJ, it's going to be good.
Right. Well put. You talk of authentic intelligence. So is that going to, is it that what you talk about, that who you are? Who is going to define who I am? And plus, is authentic intelligence and artificial intelligence, will they be on the same side or on different side? Will it be like a matrix? Will it be, humans will be outside the matrix and will be fighting? I want to understand, or is it again our choice? We can be authentic and utilize AI for our good. Then it's a bigger, different sort of a world altogether then, because a lot of people do not know. When you are talking about daily bread and butter needs, that gives them little choice, because a lot of jobs will be wiped out, careers may not be the same. I want to help us understand this part. How do I see the future, and who is going to define where we go? Where does humanity go with? Is it going to be a couple of entrepreneurs who have no control by anyone, or is it going to be individuals who will be defining their own versions of artificial intelligence and define their own pace forward?
Okay, thank you. Great questions. So can I control the weather? Who decides and who defines the weather? KJ, that's the way it's going to be. And then when people say, excuse me, if people say AI needs to be stopped, I always replace that with think for yourself. So when people say AI is dangerous, I always hear, well, thinking for yourself is dangerous. No, it isn't. AI can be the end of the world. AI needs to be controlled. thinking for yourself needs to be controlled. Seriously? No, it's not going to happen. Like, one thing I have learned is that open source wins everything all the time. In the short term, there will probably be centralized keepers. And they, that's incredibly dangerous because they can decide if I exist like that. And that's incredibly dangerous. So people are going to have to get more used to decentralized open systems. But open source technology has been around forever. Like, I've learned how to do full 3D animation in 2 months using the Genie. So I'm going to have a full 3D film out by the end of this year. I've got a trilogy of books that I'm working on now on this topic, KJ, because I've no idea. I think there will be what I call the no bots. There'll be people who say, no AI, no way, make humanity great again, all that kind of good stuff. And they'll be completely against technology for good reasons, because it can be very, very dangerous. I think there'll be go-bots who dedicate themselves completely to it, just give over their lives to AI and feed, the geniuses, as I call it, and then there'll be people in the middle, okay? But that's going to be such a civil struggle. I think AI is like any other. It can be like a gun. It can help to protect your life, and it can end a life. It's all down to how we use it. But I think there will be, in the end, there will be very little choice in this, KJ. I think it's like the weather.
It's like the weather.
You've got to know who you are. You really got to know.
Right. Let's look at it from a career point of view. As an individual, careers are already going through a great shift. How do you see these developing, this trend developing in the next few years? Is it going to be one job, no job, or several jobs that one keep? And what jobs? 80%, as you said, a lot of jobs will be taken over or be done by artificial intelligence. So, what job? Going back to farming, is that going to, because that artificial intelligence can do some part, but the actual, human intelligence part has to be done, or the eating part has to be done by human beings itself. Help us understand about what will a career look like, and what will be careers then? Will it be in the artificial intelligence itself, or other aspects of our lives, or the human aspect of our life, back to the cavemen where we needed to do so many things for ourselves?
Okay. Again, thank you. Well, first of all, I think for, as a parent, it was like the last 4 disruptions. Like, in 1 year, I thought, wow, everything's going to be completely different, and it wasn't. And then 3 years later, I look back and I go, oh, what happened? That happened so fast. I can't believe there was ever a time when there was no phones or this or that. So that's the way this is going to go. There'll be people who will say everything's going to be changed in a year. It's not. There's going to be there is going to be a serious event. I think there's going to be an event where AI is trusted too early. And it's not going to be in the regulated industries, like transport or aircraft or finance. It's going to be somewhere weird. It's going to be somewhere totally unexpected by definition, because that's what humans do. And I think that will then force people to kind of push back a little bit. I think the idea of a career is long gone. I thought, at the beginning I said I'm a mathematician, or, well, more physics, I suppose, but and an engineer. So, that aspect is always going to be a core interest. And I think there'll be 3 kinds of focus areas. There's going to be creators, people that, bring new stuff into the world. There will be curators, as in people that really have a deep love and a deep knowledge of a different area. And they will be looking at, fact checking, building out wiki pages, extending virtual worlds, all that kind of good stuff. And then the third will be conductors, who kind of bring the creators and the curators together to create new things. And I'll give an example. Like, I'm learning Blender. It's a 3D animation piece of software. Some people will say it's a toy. It's not. It's the future of the world, as far as I'm concerned, because it was built by individuals because they love it. Okay, And there's tens of thousands of people in there. I can build entire cities, with transportation systems and people running through them and so on and so forth. And so, trust me on this, it's a toy at the moment, but there's tens of thousands of people that are insanely devoted to creating new areas, to curating areas, and to bringing new bits together, okay? So what's going to happen is that architects are going to start getting involved in this. And they're going to say, hey, do you know what? That house that you built, I've got a new plug-in. And that will guarantee the safety and the regulatory compliance of that building. And if you want, here, you click a button, and I will submit it to the local authority. That's where this is going, KJ. It's going to be driven by toys. And the great thing about toys is from the ground up, like intelligence is contagious. Anything that humans touch gets, like smartphones, ATMs, all of them, intelligence is contagious. And these toys that we're using now, architects will suddenly go, car companies will go, that's a seriously good design. Fashion people will go, wow. And I was talking to one last week and she said, yeah, the stuff that people are generating for AccuCore and Unity Engine and so on, like they're literally growing new synthetic materials in Petri dishes now. And they can be applied on top of what are today toys, okay? So you can have, like the book I have now, it's printed on demand. I don't have to take care of any of that. I'm making, like, who thinks they can make a 3D animation? That was totally controlled by Bollywood, by Hollywood, by all the big producers. And now I can do it in my spare time because it's great fun. So to answer your question, intelligence is contagious. It will come up from what are toys today because people love using them. And then companies will generate plugins for those that will do either, like I said, health and safety or planning compliance or car design or texture design or clothes design or all the stuff that we do today. But, what we're doing today in our spare time to stop us from going nuts and keep us happy will become our full-time occupation.
Right. You said, and many people say that careers define our identity to a great extent, what we do, who we are. So when careers will be much more dissolved the way they are presently, how will we get defined in the coming years?
That's a great question.
Yeah, because you talked about creators, curators, conductors. Will they be able to fully define our identity? Just being, or is it better the way it is today? Help us understand about that.
Is it better the way today is not a choice? It just isn't a choice. It's the last four disruptions have taught me that. The only people that really struggle are the ones that try and hold on to things as they are. It just isn't happening. And when I came out of big companies and I decided I can't do this anymore, there's too much, like, it's like I used to have a person in my head, Ben, and this is my background. I was VP of European sales at one stage, and then another time I'm product design, another time I'm head of support, whatever. And they kind of defined who I was. Then when I left the big companies, I knew I didn't have the coat, I didn't have the uniform anymore. So when I went into senior execs, I had to go in just as a person. So what I did was I made a pledge. And I think it's very important for everybody now to make some pledge that makes them very uncomfortable. What I said was I'm going to meet with 2 business owners every single day for 40 days. That's hard. I didn't have any idea how hard that is. But I cover in the book. It did 3 things for me. One is it taught me that I love to hunt. I absolutely love finding new stuff and getting in front of people. The second thing it helped with is, what do you say? When you get in front of a senior business person, typically the good ones, they're quite humble, they're quite open, they're quite curious. So you can get in front. The first meeting with anybody, anywhere in the world, for me, I think is easy. The second meeting is very, very hard because you have to say, that's interesting. I want you to come back next week. So that's the second thing it taught me. So for instance, the third thing is persistence. You got to keep at it. Like there was one example I had. It was 9:45 at night, raining, and I didn't have my second meeting. And I pulled into I pulled into a garage and I said, I need to see the manager. And they were, what? What's wrong? I said, it doesn't matter. Everything's fine, but I need to talk to the manager right now. So they went and got the manager, and I explained, I need to talk to 2 business owners every day. I'm in trouble. I haven't done it. Can you help me? And yeah, he called the business owner. They called me back. They were very helpful. So it's a persistence. And I said to them, look, I'm learning how to talk to owners. And they said, that's a really interesting thing to do. You can do it in your own time, KJ. You just need to have either you need to have the drive to do it, or you need to think, oh man, this is changing so fast. I need to develop these skills. But you have what it takes. Everyone that's listening to this and watching this has what it takes. You know, the help is out there. It really is when you know how to look. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your questions or not, but careers, forget it. But that ability to aviate, navigate, communicate, get out, you know, find the people, have something to say, give them value. Don't sell, just give them value, and they'll come back.
Right, right. It does answer many questions. As I said, the human quest for more understanding will always continue, whether there is artificial intelligence or no intelligence. You know, talking about your book, Authentic Intelligence, How to Survive and Stand Out in the Next Crazy Decade. How have you dealt everything? It's a very not an easy topic to deal with. What is it that you have wanted to, you know, tell to the world through this book? And
Okay.
what are the things that one can love? Who is this book for?
This book's for me, KJ. I think the book was written out of absolute existential despair, to be honest. I think, you know, I suddenly realized, oh, I don't have the energy for this. I'm old. I'm not old as in oak, not old as in mold. That's okay. But then everything I tried to do, oh man, AI just knocked it out of the park. So I said, okay, I was really, really tired. And, you know, I retired because of health. And I thought, I really need to, going back to, you know, I need something of value to bring to people. So there's an old expression, don't tell me that you're funny, make me laugh. You know, so that whole idea of LinkedIn, here's what I did in the past, looking backwards, finished, gone. You know, it's I heard, I can't remember her name now, Jane, forgive me, Jane, I can't remember her second name, but she said you need to look at next practice, not best practice. So I said, I got to practice this. So I did what's called automatic writing. There's an online app where you just write. And if you stop writing for more than 5 seconds, everything disappears. Everything. So you just got to just bang it out there. Profanities and despair and everything else with it, KJ. And that produced, you know, a volume of work that was rubbish. You know, and then it just got a little bit better. On day 9, my brain disappeared. It disappeared, not a word of a lie. And I was just typing away. I was looking out the window, and this book is going to be about, you know, the parts of my brain that I had not used. Like I have the keyboard behind me now. I draw, I listen. I'll get out and I'll touch grass. I'll feel. Getting back in touch with all those areas of the brain, relit, gives you the energy that you can see now. I was done. I was a beaten dog, and in 30 days from zero to the book, bam, it just relit it again, KJ. So yeah, the book's for me, and hopefully, you know, it's out there now. It's $2 or 250 rupees or whatever it is. There's another 3 on the way this year that go into exercises that, I was talking to a cardiologist recently, and he said, you know, there's a lot of people that need to read this or that could benefit from this, because, oh man, it hurts. It really hurts. You don't ever want to feel that again. So I'm going to write another one now. The next one is all about how to prepare for your heart attack. Because after something happens, you just feel beaten. and there's no reason to feel beaten. There's an authentic person in there, and this will help to pull them out, maybe. So anyone
Absolutely.
that's feeling really, really down about this stuff or challenged about it, just give it a go.
Right, right, Ben. Talking of heart, what about the mind? You talk about the mental health, which you feel is headed into crisis. How do we take care of our mental health going forward? Is it where do we find that refuge where we can be ourselves and are also ready to take on the world? If it's going to, how do we plan the next step of our lives in terms of our mental? Because if mind is not at peace, every other organ will not be at peace. How do you look at this part going
The
forward?
brain is never at peace, never has been, and it never will be. Um, and if you look at the studies, so I spent a long time reading on neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, listening to the neuroscientists and so on. So the picture I have now, KJ, is if you imagine, I don't know if you've watched Star Trek or any of these kind of, Star Wars type movies, you've got a massive screen. It's huge. Imagine that is the mind. The conscious part of the mind is smaller than a mosquito. 99.9999999% of everything is preconscious or subconscious. It's extraordinary, and yet anybody that's ever spent time with a mosquito will know that despite its small size, it can it can destroy the whole evening for you. So it's important to reconnect all the parts because, the vision and the taste, and we have hundreds of senses. Like we have a sense of time, a sense of humor, a sense of place, a sense of dignity, a sense of humanity, a sense of care. There's hundreds and hundreds of senses. They're all in different areas, but if you think of the brain as being like a massive city, and all of the neighborhoods are trying to extract the energy and become the boss. And thinking that tiny, tiny, tiny mosquito has dominated everything. It's somehow drilled into the amygdala and the basal ganglia and said, I'm in trouble here. So we need to balance the brain out, and a bit of that's covered in the book. But basically, it's spread it out across all of the senses. You got to go from here, meet here, and then get down to hallowed ground. Because if you don't, it's going to be tough.
Right, right. You have explained all these things very well, but there is so much to understand still. So people who would want to learn more about you, from you, through your book, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
I would love if people go to the site, activecitizen.ai. I think we all need to become active citizens. We cannot let, I'm not going to mention any social companies because, companies need to do what they need to do. So respect. However, what we do to technology, it does to us. And that's not okay. We cannot let large companies or even sectional governments do that. We need to become active citizens. So I would really love if you go, please go to the site, sign up, get the newsletters. I really need to understand what people need, what they want. I need to learn how to talk, or I need to learn how to listen, to be honest. But yeah, that would be great. That would be great, KJ. And again, thank you to you particularly for reaching out, and thanks to everybody for just listening to this. It's a fun time to be alive.
It's a fun time to be alive. Wonderfully said. With these positive words, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.